Before we begin this morning prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. There are mornings that feel like you've already failed before your feet even touch the floor. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your heart is carrying too much doubt, because there's a whisper in your mind questioning whether you're enough, whether you'll get it right today, whether you can actually do the things ahead. And sometimes that whisper gets loud. It shows up in the pause before you open your eyes, in the heaviness that settles in your chest before you even move, in the hesitation between thoughts that says, what if I can't do this? And if you've woken up with that kind of weight today, I want you to know this moment doesn't define you. These thoughts are not the truth of who you are. You're not behind just because you feel behind. You're not unworthy just because you feel uncertain. You are still allowed to take this day as you. Sometimes believing in yourself isn't a grand declaration. It's not shouting affirmations into the mirror or feeling a rush of adrenaline that suddenly makes you unstoppable. Sometimes believing in yourself looks like a whisper back at the doubt. It's choosing not to let fear write the rest of your day. It's saying, even if I'm unsure, I will still show up. It's letting your presence be louder than your anxiety. And that's where we begin. We begin with presence, with softness, with the decision to pause and breathe and remind ourselves that being unsure doesn't mean we're not worthy of trying. You don't need to feel fully confident to move forward. You just need to be kind to yourself in this moment. You just need to stop waiting until everything inside you feels perfect before allowing yourself to take one small, imperfect, beautiful step into the day. Even if you don't trust your strength yet, even if you're still trying to find it, that's okay. The very act of waking up and choosing to stay with yourself through the uncertainty is an act of faith. It's a sign of resilience, and you're doing it, even now, even here. So let's take this slow. Let's not rush to fix the doubt or shut it down. Let's meet it with curiosity. Let's ask ourselves, what part of me feels afraid today? What part of me is still trying to prove something? What part of me is holding its breath, hoping someone will finally say, you're doing just fine? Maybe no one said that to you lately. Maybe no one's told you, I believe in you. And so your mind has started to assume it must mean you're not worth believing in. But can I tell you something tender, something honest? The absence of reassurance doesn't mean the absence of worth. Just because others don't always see what you're carrying, it doesn't make your burden lighter. Just because they don't affirm your efforts, it doesn't mean those efforts don't matter. They do, and you matter. Not just for what you do, but for who you are. You don't have to keep chasing proof of that. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to earn your own kindness. You're allowed to speak gently to yourself right now. Even if yesterday you didn't feel so gentle, you're allowed to begin again. So, if your first thoughts this morning were full of doubt, let's sit with them for a moment. Let's not pretend them away. Let's breathe through them together. Maybe they're saying, you're not ready. Maybe they're telling you, today will be too hard. Maybe they're bringing up memories of the last time you tried and felt like you failed. Maybe they're echoing voices you've heard before, the ones that made you question your enoughness, your capability, your right to try again. And maybe part of you still believes them. Maybe part of you is scared they were right. But here's the shift. You don't have to silence those thoughts. You just don't have to obey them. You don't have to let them sit in the driver's seat. They can exist without leading your day. You are not those voices. You are not their story. You are not their conclusion. Today, I want you to consider a different story. One that sounds like this. I don't have to be perfect to be strong. I don't have to feel fearless to move forward. I don't have to silence every doubt before I take a step. I can be unsure and still begin. I can be scared and still show up. I can believe in myself without needing to feel certain all the time. That kind of belief is steady. It's not flashy. It doesn't come with a trumpet sound or a grand reveal. It's quiet, rooted, real. It's built slowly, one small choice at a time, and it starts right here, with how you speak to yourself. So how about this? What if today you chose to believe in yourself with the way you carry your breath, with the way you let go of the need to be everything for everyone, with the way you give yourself permission to pause when things get overwhelming, with the way you say, I don't need to prove anything right now, I just need to keep going. And maybe believing in yourself also means choosing not to compare your pace to someone else's. Maybe it means saying no to the pressure that says you should be further along by now. Maybe it's looking in the mirror and not flinching, not criticizing, not shrinking, just saying you're still here, and that matters. If there's anything trying to convince you this morning that you're not enough, whether it's a deadline, a memory, a voice from your past, or just the echo of your own uncertainty, I want you to know that you can face it without letting it define you. You are not the sum of your flaws. You are not the measurement of yesterday's mistakes. You are not late, behind, broken, or too much. You are becoming. You are learning. You are trying again. That matters more than you know. So let's breathe. Not to fix anything, just to ground ourselves. To remember that we are more than our fear, more than our doubt, more than the voice that says you can't. Let's start small. Let's start here. You're safe in this moment. You're allowed to start slow. You're allowed to need reminders. You're allowed to wake up unsure and still call today holy. Still call it worth showing up for. You don't need to be a version of yourself that doesn't exist today. You only need to be here, awake, breathing, willing to stay with yourself. That's more than enough. That's what belief looks like in the quiet. So speak gently to yourself. Start from love, not pressure. Choose encouragement over expectation. And if all you do today is hold on to that tiny thread of belief, even if it's trembling, you've done something beautiful. Let this be your beginning. A soft, unrushed, honest beginning. The kind that honors how far you've already come. The kind that doesn't demand performance, but welcomes your presence. Today doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be true. And the truest thing I can offer you this morning is this. You are allowed to believe in yourself, even if no one else says it first. And I believe in you right here, right now. In the messy, unfinished, brave middle of becoming. You are worthy of your own trust. You are worthy of taking up space in this day. You are worthy of believing that what's inside you is good. Not someday, not when everything makes sense, but now. You don't have to do it all. Just take the next kind step toward yourself, toward the light, toward this day. And if all else fails, let this be your prayer. God, I don't feel strong today, but I want to believe you didn't make a mistake when you made me. Let that be the spark. Let that be enough. Let it carry you until the next breath, the next moment, the next quiet affirmation. Because today, you're choosing belief, and that's powerful. Maybe no one ever taught you how to believe in yourself without conditions. Maybe belief for you has always been something you had to earn by succeeding, by achieving, by being the best, the most responsible, the one who never falls apart. Maybe no one modeled for you what it looks like to speak to yourself with kindness in the middle of imperfection. Maybe your earliest memories of motivation were wrapped in pressure and performance, and now every morning feels like a test you're trying not to fail. But what if today could be different? What if you didn't need to hold it all together to be proud of yourself? What if your value wasn't up for debate, depending on how productive you are? What if belief in yourself didn't require a perfect track record, just the willingness to stay? There's something holy in that willingness, that choice to show up to the day, not because you figured everything out, but because you're learning to love yourself in the process. And that kind of love is quiet. It doesn't shout over your fears. It sits with them. It says, even now, you are not alone. Even now, you are not unworthy. Maybe you've been measuring yourself against a standard that no one could meet. Maybe you've been replaying a mistake, thinking it cancelled out all the progress you've made. Maybe you're convinced that everyone else has it more together than you do. But behind every composed face is a story, a struggle, a tender place where belief still wavers. You're not the only one who wonders if you're doing enough. You're not the only one who wakes up with knots in your stomach, wondering if you can carry what's ahead. So take a breath. You're not failing at life because you feel heavy. You're not broken because your confidence is quiet. You're just human. And being human means living in the tension between fear and faith, between uncertainty and hope, between the voice that says you're not enough and the deeper voice that whispers you were never supposed to earn love. It was always yours. You don't need to fight every doubt this morning. You just need to stop fighting yourself. Let that be the shift, the sacred exhale, the small rebellion against all the noise that tells you you're only valuable when you're achieving. What if you started the day not by bracing for failure, but by choosing softness? What if you sat with the part of you that feels scared and said, I'm not going to abandon you today? Because that's what most of us are afraid of. Deep down, not just failing, but being alone in our failure. Not just struggling, but being judged for it. Not just being unsure, but being told we're weak because of it. But you're not weak. You're brave in ways you probably don't give yourself credit for. You're still here. You're still trying. You still want to grow, to heal, to show up with honesty. And that is enough to build on. So maybe the prayer today isn't for perfection. Maybe it's for presence, for the courage to show up for yourself the way you wish someone else would, to stop waiting for external permission to be kind to your own heart, to stop deferring your belief to someone else's approval. You don't need permission to believe in yourself. You just need to stop agreeing with the voices that say you're not allowed to. There will always be expectations, spoken and unspoken. There will always be moments where you wonder if you measure up, but you are not meant to shrink to fit into someone else's mold. You are not designed to live in a constant state of apology for who you are. You are not the problem. The pressure is. So release that. Even if it's just for today. Even if it's just for this moment. You don't need to prove your worth this morning. You just need to feel your breath, notice your heartbeat, and remember your existence is already enough. And maybe that sounds strange. Maybe it's hard to accept when the world keeps telling you to do more, be more, achieve more. But sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is say, I'm already enough, and I'm still allowed to grow. Growth doesn't come from shame. It comes from compassion, from the decision to believe that even in your most uncertain moments, there's still something good unfolding in you. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you're still cleaning up the pieces of a past version of yourself you're not proud of. But you are not your past. You are not stuck. You are not beyond becoming. Today can be a turning point, not because everything changes instantly, but because you do. Because you stop agreeing with the lie that you have to hate yourself into becoming better. You don't. You never do. Self-belief grows in the soil of kindness, not criticism, and it starts small. So if your belief feels fragile today, that's okay. You're still allowed to name it, to nurture it, to say, I may not feel it fully yet, but I'm going to speak to myself like someone worth loving. Let that be your mantra. Let that be the voice you carry with you when the noise gets loud again. Because it will. The world is full of messages trying to convince you that your value is conditional, that you have to look a certain way, perform a certain way, achieve certain things before you can call yourself worthy. But belief in yourself doesn't come from matching someone else's checklist. It comes from being honest about where you are and still choosing to move forward, even slowly, even shakily, even when your voice trembles. You're not late, you're not lost, you're not too much or not enough. You're simply you. And that is a beautiful thing to be. So today, when you feel that old fear rise up, the one that says, "What if I can't?" answer it with a quiet, steady, "But what if I can?" Let hope be louder than fear. And if it's not loud, let it be present. Let it whisper to you throughout the day. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to believe all at once. You just have to keep choosing to come back to yourself with love. Let this be your morning prayer, not a ritual of striving, but of soft returning. Back to grace, back to gentleness, back to the quiet place where belief begins. You are more than your fear, more than your inner critic, more than the roles you play or the expectations you carry. You are still becoming, and that is sacred. So open your hands, breathe deep, and choose to begin this day, not by doubting your worth, but by honoring it. You're allowed to believe in yourself, not because you've earned it, but because you exist, and your existence is a miracle. Even if you forget it later today, even if the noise drowns it out, even if you come back to this prayer tomorrow with the same questions, the same fears, the same ache, it's okay. The invitation is always open. You can choose belief again and again and again, because there is nothing fragile about a soul that keeps rising, and that's who you are. Let's begin slowly, without rushing ourselves toward clarity or confidence. Let's allow the gentle truth to rise gradually, like light filtering into a quiet room. Maybe you didn't wake up feeling strong today. Maybe you feel unsure about everything ahead. Maybe you're staring down a calendar that feels impossibly full, or an open stretch of time that feels just as intimidating because it's filled with decisions you don't yet know how to make. That's okay. You're not behind for feeling lost. You're not failing for feeling scared. And you're not weak just because your faith in yourself is trembling this morning. There's a quiet kind of strength that shows up when you choose not to turn away from yourself. It's the strength that says, "I'm still here." It's the strength that refuses to abandon the version of you that feels most uncertain. It's not about feeling fearless. It's about staying, even when fear is present. That's what belief looks like. Some mornings, not a loud declaration, but a decision to remain. A soft but steady yes to the day, even when your whole body wants to curl back under the covers and disappear. So if that's how you feel right now, let's not shame it. Let's meet it gently. You've already done something beautiful. You showed up here. You paused. You made room for something softer than pressure and kinder than perfection. That's no small thing. That's an act of belief, even if you don't call it that yet, even if it doesn't feel like enough. It is. Maybe what's hardest isn't the day ahead, but the voice inside that says you won't be able to handle it, that you're not capable enough, that you'll mess it up again, that you'll disappoint someone or yourself. And that voice has probably collected years of evidence, hasn't it? Old stories, past mistakes, comparisons that never leave room for compassion. That speaks with certainty, but it's built on fear. It sounds familiar, but it doesn't speak the truth. So what would it look like to question that voice today? To gently say, "I hear you, but I don't have to follow you." What would it feel like to speak back, not with aggression, not with guilt, but with grace? To remind that voice, "I am not who I used to be. I am still growing. I am still learning. And I'm allowed to change." It's so easy to carry old narratives into new days. To assume that because something was hard once, it will be hard forever. Or because we didn't get it right before, we're destined to fail again. But belief in yourself asks for something braver. It asks you to look at today with fresh eyes, to say, I am not yesterday's version of me. I am the one who woke up today, and that counts for something. Let yourself breathe in that possibility, that maybe you are more ready than you think. Not ready in the sense of having every answer or feeling perfectly equipped, but ready to begin, ready to try without punishing yourself, ready to walk through the unknown without needing to eliminate all fear first. What if readiness isn't a feeling, but a posture? What if it's less about confidence and more about kindness? What if the real mark of someone prepared for the day isn't their productivity, but their capacity to stay present even when it's hard? You are capable of that kind of presence. You're not flashy. It doesn't always come with a rush of motivation, but it's deep. It's the presence that says, even when I'm not sure, I'm still here. Even when I feel small, I still matter. Matter, even when my voice trembles, I still speak. Let that be the rhythm of your day, not proving, not performing, but returning to that gentle truth again and again. You are not disqualified by doubt. We are not disqualified by fatigue. You are not disqualified by the voice in your head that sometimes says you can't do this. The voice of fear may visit you today, but it doesn't get to unpack its bags and stay. It doesn't get to narrate your story, and it doesn't get to silence your voice. So what will you say to yourself today when the familiar ache of insecurity surfaces? Will you rush to fix it, or will you pause and tend to it with care? There is something powerful about saying, this feeling doesn't get to define my day, not because the feeling is bad, but because it's temporary. Because it doesn't carry the full truth, because it's just one thread in the story, not the whole tapestry. You don't have to wait until your fear disappears before you start believing in yourself. You don't have to pretend you're unshakable. You just have to choose not to abandon yourself. That's where belief begins. And if that's hard today, let's simplify it even further. Let's not make belief another mountain to climb. Let's not make it another thing you have to earn. Let it be the way you sit with yourself, the way you breathe, the way you hold your own gaze in the mirror and don't look away. Maybe today it starts with saying, I'm proud of myself for trying. That's it. No disclaimers, no conditions, just pride in the fact that you keep showing up. Maybe it's saying, I trust that I will figure things out even if I don't know how yet. Maybe it's being okay with the mess. Maybe it's being honest about what hurts without calling yourself weak for hurting. You are allowed to feel tender, to move slower, to ask for help, to stop pushing yourself beyond your limits just to meet someone else's expectations. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to speak gently. You are allowed to not have everything figured out. And most importantly, you are allowed to believe that these things don't make you less. They make you whole. So if you've been holding your breath trying to earn your right to believe in yourself, exhale. You don't have to do that anymore. You never do. Maybe today's belief won't come from loud declarations or perfect affirmations. Maybe it'll come from the smallest moments, the ones that usually go unnoticed. The way you gently sit with your coffee and let yourself breathe for an extra minute before the day begins. The way you resist the urge to criticize your reflection and instead offer a quiet smile. The way you pause before rushing and ask, what do I need right now? Instead of what should I be doing right now? These are acts of belief too, quiet ones, powerful ones. You don't need to move mountains today. You just need to stop moving against yourself, because that's what so many of us do without even realizing it. We wake up already bracing, already tensed, already treating ourselves like something to fix or manage or control. We see the to-do list before we see the miracle of our own breath. We hear the voice of inadequacy before we let our own heart speak. And we forget that the first and most sacred place to meet belief is in our own skin, right here, before we do a single thing. What would happen if you began this day not with a list of what you must accomplish, but with a list of what you already are. Not achievements, not performance, but presence, kindness, willingness. The fact that you've arrived in this moment with a heart that still longs to try, that is already enough to build something beautiful upon. Let yourself soften toward that truth. You don't need to wake up fearless to walk through today with courage. You don't need to feel sure of every decision to trust that you're still being led. You don't need to look like confidence to be living proof of it. Sometimes belief looks like continuing to try when the doubts haven't gone away yet. Sometimes it looks like saying, even if I don't feel ready, I'll still begin. And sometimes it's quieter than that. It's not a mantra. It's not a quote. It's just the way you carry yourself. Less hurried, less harsh, more present. If you've spent most of your life measuring your worth by how much you do or how well you perform, mornings like this can feel like failure. Slower mornings, tired mornings, mornings filled with questions and second guessing. But maybe these mornings aren't failures at all. Maybe they're invitations. Maybe they're reminders that your humanity was never a problem to solve. Maybe the doubt isn't a sign that you're losing faith in yourself, but that you're finally learning how to believe without pretending. What would change if you believed in yourself as you are? Not the version you hope to become, not the one you think others want to see, but the you that woke up this morning, still tired, still trying, still holding on to hope, even if it's fragile. You don't need to earn belief. You just need to stop withholding it. So let's make a small promise today, to stop talking to ourselves like we're a problem, to stop narrating every slow start as a failure, to stop expecting perfection before we're allowed to rest or celebrate or breathe. Belief doesn't mean you have it all together. It means you're willing to stay on your own side, even when things feel messy. It means saying, I may not know how the day will unfold, but I trust myself to meet it gently. It means allowing grace to take up space where guilt used to live. It means asking yourself, not what if I fail, but what if I'm more capable than I think? And if the only thing you accomplish today is being kinder to yourself, that's not a small thing. That's sacred. That's revolutionary. That's belief in it. And if the belief falters again by afternoon, come back here. Come back to the truth that's always been yours. You don't have to be fearless to be faithful to your life. And that's what you're doing today. You're choosing to be faithful to your life, even when belief feels like a whisper, even when confidence hasn't fully returned, even when you're not sure how you'll make it through the next hour, let alone the whole day. You're still here, still choosing, still softening where fear told you to harden. And I'll be here with you, reminding you as many times as you need until you can hear that voice inside yourself and believe it too. Let's begin where it's quiet, where nothing has to be earned, where the day doesn't rush in with its loud expectations. Let's begin in that still space between waking and moving, between thought and action, where you are simply here, not what you do, not what you achieve, but simply who you are. That's the place belief grows. Not in the race to accomplish more, but in the soft arrival to yourself. In the way you choose not to rush past the fragile parts. In the way you pause long enough to say, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm learning to trust myself again. Because sometimes belief in yourself is less about declaring your confidence and more about tending to what's been bruised by doubt. And maybe that's the invitation this morning. Not to fix, not to solve, not to force your way into strength, but to notice where you've stopped believing and gently ask, is that the truth? Or just a voice I've grown too used to hearing? That voice, it's convincing. It has tone, rhythm, stories. It has a way of walking in first and rearranging the whole room, making it harder to see what's good and steady and present. It tells you you're falling behind, that your best days are elsewhere, that your mistakes outweigh your efforts, and maybe you've believed it so long that it feels like your own voice. But it's not. That voice was borrowed from pressure, from past wounds, from comparison, from systems that told you your value was only as secure as your productivity. But you're allowed to return that voice now. You're allowed to set it down and begin again with something kinder. You're allowed to speak in your own tone, a tone that doesn't shame you into change, but loves you into becoming. And maybe it starts with a whisper. Maybe belief isn't loud this morning, but it's present. Maybe it's tucked into your breath, your decision to show up. You're reaching for this prayer instead of giving up. Maybe it's not a banner of confidence, but a small thread of hope saying, I want to learn how to see myself differently. That wanting is sacred. That desire to believe again, it matters. It's not weakness. It's not wishful thinking. It's the soft beginning of something true. You don't need to have all the right words. You don't need to convince yourself in one sitting. You just need to not give up on your own worth, even if that belief feels far away right now. Maybe you've been trying to silence your doubt with productivity, with proving, with perfection. Maybe you've tried to outrun the feeling that you're not enough by doing more, offering more, showing up more completely than you ever needed to. But belief doesn't thrive in burnout. It doesn't grow in the cracks of overextension. It grows in rest, in honesty, in presence, in letting yourself be real without shutting the door on love. And that love, it starts with how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you hold space for the parts of you that still feel unsure. You don't need to fix those parts. You just need to stay with them long enough for them to stop hiding, long enough for them to feel safe again. And that's what you're doing here. That's the quiet bravery of this morning. So if you feel tender, good. If you feel exposed, good. If you feel like maybe you're not quite ready to believe yet, but you're trying, good. That's where it begins. Not in the certainty, but in the trying. Not in the answers, but in the attention. You are worthy of your own care, even on the days when you feel least deserving of it. Especially on those days. You are allowed to begin again even if yesterday was filled with criticism. You are allowed to wake up and choose compassion instead of continuing the cycle of internal punishment. No one benefits from your self-attack. It doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't make you more productive. It doesn't make you safer. It just makes you small. And you were never meant to be small. You were meant to be whole, to be present, to be enough without being exhausted. You were meant to speak to yourself with tenderness, to be a safe place for your own heart. So if your inner voice has been unkind lately, if it's been harsh or impatient or relentlessly disappointed in you, let this morning be different. Let this be the morning you interrupt that voice. Let this be the morning you remind yourself that you are not a project. You are a person. You are not your pace. You are not your output. You are not the number of tasks you complete or how well you perform them. You are not the sum total of what others expect from you. You are more than all of that. You are someone becoming, and that is worth honoring. Belief is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision to keep walking with it. To say, I hear you, but I'm not giving you the final word today. It is choosing to reach for kindness when criticism feels easier. It is letting your breath be enough when motivation hasn't yet arrived. It is saying, maybe I can't see the full picture, but I still trust that I'm a part of something unfolding, and you are. Your life is not stuck. Your heart is not broken beyond repair. Your soul is not disqualified from light. You are not lost. You are not hopeless. You are simply standing at the edge of something new, and you are brave enough to step forward, even if your knees shake. So, let this be your moment. Let this be the turning. Not a dramatic change, not a sudden erasure of all fear, but a shift, a softening, a quiet breath that says, today, I'm allowed to be gentle with myself. Today, I choose to believe, not because everything feels easy, but because I know my heart needs this, my spirit needs this, my life deserves this.